Please welcome Spencer to Creative Mornings. Thanks, Jeremy, and thanks for having me back. It's pretty amazing to see like how the community's grown over the last kind of couple of years. So yeah, my name is Spencer. You can call me Spenceroni. And today I want to kind of talk about the crossover of work and play. So I've been kind of thinking a lot about play recently because it's kind of emerged as a bit of a theme in my kind of life and creative work over the last 7 years. So I kind of just want to tell a bit of the story about me and work and play and how they kind of come together. So I guess going right back to the beginning, I never really had iPhones and iPads, and I wasn't allowed any kind of consoles growing up, and I really hated it at the time, but now I'm kind of quite thankful to my parents because it meant I spent a lot of my time playing, kind of building things out of cardboard and making really unsafe bow and arrows and firing at each other, you know. And you know, it was a really great time, but then it kind of came to this time when I had to start growing up. So, you know, growing up, you have to kind of start making decisions about what you want to do with your adult life. And I had to kind of start picking out what I wanted to do for my career. And I think I was like 14 or something at the time that I had to start doing this, which was, you know, pretty crazy to do. So at the time, I decided I wanted to be a scientist. So I went and studied maths and physics and biology and all that kind of stuff. And then eventually enrolled in uni to study science. So during that time, I wasn't really playing that much, and I was doing a lot of kind of, you know, logical kind of stuff. But it was just something that didn't feel right, and I wasn't really enjoying it, and I wanted to kind of, you know, start playing again. So in the evenings, while I was meant to be doing my lab reports, I would just be playing around in Photoshop and Illustrator, kind of teaching myself and making some really, really hideous pieces of design, which I've dug up for you today. So I don't know what was going on here. We're going to forget about those. So like all kind of angsty young artists back then, I put them up on my DeviantArt page, which still exists, but I'm not telling you the URL because it's going to stay. I've blurred it out. Staying in the dark depths of the internet where it belongs. So I decided to, that I was kind of really enjoying this process of just making really bad vectors, and I wanted to do that for my job. So I decided to leave science and do something a bit more creative. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to do art or illustration or design, but in the end, I guess the more practical side of me took over, and I enrolled in graphic design. So I ended up in first year, and I had to start learning to kind of unlearn and kind of unprogram myself from all this logical side that I'd kind of done in science, and kind of get back to that playful side that I had before when I was a kid. So it was kind of quite challenging getting back to that. But I kind of became interested in play around this time and how it can kind of become part of your creative process. And so I ended up actually doing my last year thesis on play, and I put together this kind of game which was designed for organizations and designers to kind of use play within their work. So I guess this is where the theme kind of started playing out in my work, and I kind of became interested in it. And it was really interesting because I read a lot of different studies by psychologists about play and how it was kind of used and how it can be kind of a source of creativity. So I started doing a bit more play myself, while I was in my last year of uni, and I started just kind of experimenting with some different things, and I entered one of them in this awards at AG Ideas. And I'll show you a bit of that piece now. So I was just playing around with stop motion animation and kind of seeing where that could go, and I put together this little video just playing around with that, because I found these leaves on the road and I just wanted to kind of play with it. So I'll just show you off a little bit of this so you can see the concept. Basically I saw them and I thought they looked like lungs, so I made this little animation, and I was lucky enough to win. And from that I won a trip around the world and an internship at Pentagram in New York. So I guess that was the first kind of bit of evidence that play was pretty powerful stuff, and that, you know, it could give me a trip around the world. And so when I got back, I moved to Melbourne and had no job, which was pretty depressing, but I had a lot of time on my hands, so I thought, oh well, I'll just play. And I decided to kind of come up with a side project that I could do in my spare time, and came up with this project called Minimal Thing, which was basically making these minimal illustrations that I do kind of every day. And so I did 100 of those, and that was kind of really great to kind of go through that process. And towards the end, I got this email one day that they wanted to feature it on design files. So that was pretty amazing to get that after only kind of recently graduating. And from this, it kind of got quite a lot of exposure, and then I started to get some work from that, relating to that project. So I guess the first kind of project that I got that was related from the Minimal Thing project was to do a campaign for Yarra Trams. So you might have seen this around the city. It's still kind of on a few billboards. So yeah, they kind of just wanted me to do these illustrations in that kind of minimal graphic style. So something I kind of learned from doing that first project is that to be able to play successfully and do these side projects, you need some rules, like any kind of game. So I kind of came up with some rules that I keep in mind now when I'm doing these side projects. The first one is kind of keep it simple, so just something that you can do quite easily, and you know, you can do it, you know, without a lot of time or materials. And to do it often, so I did Minimal Thing every day, and now my latest side project I just kind of do twice a week, so just something I kind of keep on quite a regular basis, and to not kind of worry about perfection either. So it's kind of more about making lots of work and experimenting without being worried about it being perfect. So after a while I was just kind of working for myself, and then I met my friend Scott, and we formed a design studio called Pennant, and we did lots of really great work together for about 2 years, working with lots of different small businesses, doing a lot of branding work and that kind of stuff. But I still kind of found myself playing outside of that and experimenting with some different stuff. So I started another side project, because I kind of finished Minimal Thing at that stage, and I started a project called Rhythm and Repeat, which I'm still doing at the moment. And this was just exploring repeat patterns and trying to just explore a lot of different styles and different colours and just different subject matter and make these like patterns. So I've been doing this on average about twice a week. I make two patterns a week, and I just kind of post them on like a Tumblr blog. And it's been a really fun process, and starting to kind of get me a bit more work doing this kind of stuff as well, which is what I really enjoy. And then I was lucky from this to also get on the design files again, which then led to more work from my play. So I was starting to kind of see this connection between work and play come along. So I did some scarves recently with a Melbourne company called Kish and Evie, and that's been kind of really fun because they just use some of my patterns, and then they've been like sharing the profits with me from those. And then I recently got to have another dream project in mind, which was to design some socks. So I did some, these aren't mine, by the way. I did some with Odd Pairs, which are kind of coming out soon. So kind of thinking a lot about play recently, and really kind of noticed that all the projects where I've had any kind of success or people have taken notice have been the ones where I've been playing. And I think kind of where that comes from is when you're playing, your work is really authentic and it's about you and what you're interested in. And I think like when you're doing something that excites you and you're interested in 100%, that people can kind of sense that on some subconscious level, and it kind of gets them excited as well and they want to be involved. So I think that's where it kind of comes from and why they've been a success. And you know, if someone doesn't like it, then if you do something that interests you, then at least, you know, one person is pleased. So about 4 or 5 months ago, I decided that I was just enjoying these side projects way too much, and I was kind of getting a bit stressed out running a studio, and I just wanted to kind of have a bit of a change and do it full time. So I made the switch, and I've now gone solo as Spenceroni, and just been kind of exploring a lot of my own kind of work and doing these patterns and that kind of stuff. And so I've kind of been thinking about what it means to be a professional, because I had this idea that, you know, when you're growing up you have to be serious and you have to go into this professional role as you know, running a studio or that kind of thing. But I think you can still be silly in your work, you can still have a lot of fun. And so you don't have to be a professional, but I still think it's important to be professional in your approach to working with people. So you can be silly in the work, but as long as you know you're meeting deadlines and you're ethical in the way you work with people, it all works out and people will still want to work with you. So now I'm doing a lot of like self-initiated kind of illustrations and just kind of sharing these online. I've been doing some different prints, screen printing, playing around with that. I had a little mini exhibition with a friend recently doing these paper cut kind of collages. And then so from this kind of work, I've just been kind of sharing it online and then starting to get a few jobs that have been related to this work, which was just play. So I did this sculptural piece for Frankie magazine recently for their craft DIY book that's coming out soon. Then I also did some kind of illustrated quotes and illustrations for the Foundation of Young Australians, which have been they've been sharing online this week. And then I've also been working this week on some illustrated type pieces for the AIGA in the US. So the play is starting to turn more into work now, which is good because I've been really enjoying doing this kind of work. So one of the things that kind of arose from when I was studying play back in uni is that it's important to have a set time and place to be able to play in, and kind of get into that mental space where you can have fun. So I've spent like a lot of effort in kind of creating this space now in my studio that's really fun and kind of encourages me to play when I'm working. So I finally have my like dream studio set up now, where I have this like digital desk where I can do all the computer stuff, but then I have a lot of space to kind of make a mess, and I have this drawing desk and painting desk and lots of space for materials and stuff. And I've filled it with a lot of kind of friends' artwork and that inspires me and kind of encourages me to play. I've got the other desk, and then I kind of make lots of crazy things that I fill it with, and colourful things and patterns and stuff like that I like. And then this little dude sits on my desk every day, and he's like my little like play mascot, and he's there to kind of remind me to play and not take it too seriously. So I kind of made a little print for some of you. If you got here early, you probably got one, which is a little drawing of this dude, which is hopefully something that you guys can have in your studio as a little mascot to remind you to play as well. So I kind of want everyone to have fun with their work. So imaginary friends. I'm not going crazy, I swear. I'm not talking to myself. I do that sometimes. But what I'm kind of talking about here is the idea of the muses, which are kind of this idea from Greek mythology of these kind of goddesses that would come and inspire artists and give them ideas and inspiration. And I don't know where my ideas come from, but they kind of feel a bit mystical sometimes, so perhaps they come from the muses. But what I know though is that they seem to come more when I'm playing. So I feel like having, playful energy seems to conjure up these muses, and if you spend time with these imaginary friends, then they seem to give me lots of ideas and that's where my kind of work comes from. And when you're on these adventures playing and that, it's really important to record the ideas because they become useful in the work later on. So I keep a sketchbook which is just filled with like random doodles and that I kind of record when I'm playing, or even when I'm just sitting on the couch watching TV. And some of them like are just pretty random, and there's like a lot of notes of things I'm thinking about. And at the time they might seem really silly and not have any kind of context, but later on when I'm trying to do a project and I'm stuck on an idea, if I go back to here, I'll often find that there's something that's relevant to that project, and that's where a lot of the kind of ideas come from for that. And something I kind of try to keep in mind when I'm playing as well is to just use what I have there. So it's easy to kind of get strung up on the limitations of going, oh, I don't have my computer with me today, or I don't have this material. But you can just play with whatever you've got wherever you are. I go camping every now and again, and we'll just kind of grab some sticks and paint and make some fun things. And these guys know we do it. And yeah, so it's like important not to kind of make excuses to play. Like when you're a kid, you just a cardboard box can become a castle. So I think trying to keep that in mind when you're an adult as well. And I guess the most important thing that is the key is to also share your play with the world. So if you want to kind of get work from your play and be able to do more of it, you have to kind of broadcast it and share it so people can discover it. So both my minimal thing and rhythm repeat, I just kind of ran on Tumblr blogs, and Instagram is really great as well. So it's kind of good to just kind of get your work out there. So yeah, I've been trying to kind of get back to being that kid that I used to be and have a lot of fun. So I've been just trying to keep that essence of play in my work now, and not kind of worry too much about being serious and being this kind of growing up that I thought I had to be when I was choosing my career early on. So yeah, this theme of play has kind of been with me over the last kind of 7 years, and I'm not kind of finished with it yet. I kind of want to explore it a bit more and see where it goes. So I can kind of give you guys a sneak peek of something I'm working on next year, which is this exhibition that I'm planning in June next year. So it's going to be called Hello Play, and obviously it's going to be themed around play, and it's going to be at a gallery in the city, and it's going to be pretty big, so it kind of scares me, but I think it'll be really fun as well. And it's going to be basically a body of work that explores play, and it's about kind of trying to get adults to reconnect with their sense of play as well. And there's going to be like a lot of interactive elements as well. I'll be kind of creating games within the space that people can kind of involve with, and we're going to be running some workshops there as well with some friends of mine. So it's going to be really fun, and I'm looking forward to that as well. And I'm actually going to be sharing the whole process of making the exhibition over the next 6 months. So if you follow me on Instagram, you can follow along as I'll kind of share works in progress and that kind of stuff, and hopefully get some kind of feedback and ideas from you guys as well, and kind of put this really fun exhibition together. So don't forget to play. That's my kind of message for today. Have fun with what you do and share it with the world, because you'll find that it'll make the work more enjoyable. People will connect a lot more with your work, and if you can find a way to work every day which is playful, then you'll be having fun, and so that's kind of what I want to do as well. So thanks.
Anyone? Yes. What was where did Spencer already come from?
So when I was in first year studying science, there was an Italian exchange student, and she couldn't pronounce my name properly, and so she'd be like, Spenceroni. then I was just looking for like usernames, and it became my username across everything. Yeah. There's some other Spencer Harrison out there that's like taken my username on everything else, so I had to be creative. So.
In the back.
Do you have a process for generating ideas? Do they come to you? Do you just keep a notebook? Or?
Yeah, so just, I guess like they come to me when I start making something or like just start drawing. So yeah, if I feel stuck, I'll just start even just doodling on some paper, and then they'll come, or I'll go back to my sketchbook and look at earlier ideas, and that's where where they come from. Yeah.
When you did the switch over from your studio going out to Spencer only, what were your sort of fears or holdbacks or the scary parts? Anything at all, or you just ready to do it?
Obviously money was one of them. So I just saved up a little bit of money, and then so that I could have the first kind of 3 months and to not stress too much. And I had like a pretty strict budget in that time, but just to kind of find my feet into that. And then I was also really worried after going from working really structured 9 to 5 kind of thing, that I'd hit this wall of like infinite free time and kind of freak out and end up doing nothing and just staying in bed all day. So I had this big list of all the things I wanted to do, which is like the screen prints and all that, and like that little mini exhibition and stuff. And then I just like plotted out like each week what I was going to do for those 3 months. I was like, okay, this week I'm going to do this, and then every week I'd get in and like write a list in the studio of like what I was going to do that week, just to make sure I kind of kept the momentum going. And that seems to have worked, and I keep trying to do that. I'm going to do that for the next 6 months with the exhibition as well. So, yeah.
Spencer, I just have a question. Like,
yeah.
In terms of looking at the work that you do now, like you can look at it and see it is very playful, and I think just stylistically, aesthetically, how did you bring that work into like a more kind of structured design practice with Studio Pennant, where it wasn't very illustrative, but there was still like a playful aspect? How do you kind of reconcile play with non-illustrative work?
It's a good question. I mean, yeah, I guess the colour used to sneak in a lot into our kind of commercial projects. It was quite different because it was a process with 2 people, so ideas would kind of bounce back and forth. But we did kind of include, I guess, quite a lot of playful elements within our design, and kind of tried to make them quite fun as well, where possible, even if they were more serious branding jobs. So, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah. How do you think that people will be working in a less playful environment can incorporate a sense of play when there maybe isn't as much scope in their daily work for incorporating it into that?
Yeah, well, I think like trying to start a side project is a great way to kind of have that outlet. If you feel like you can't kind of do it during the day. I know it's kind of hard to find the time, but if you can just do even something small, where once a week you do something on the weekend, or over time it might not like be directly linked to your work at that time, but you'll find that it'll start kind of creeping in some way, and the two will influence each other. So yeah, it's like just I think trying to just do one of those side projects is a good way to start.
I think we'll end it there. So
okay.
Everyone give hands to Spencer.
Thanks, guys.